Sorry to break some hearts on Valentine's Day, but there was a mass shooting at a college in the United States, actually just down the street from me, Michigan State University. Let's have a look at what CNN had to say about that.
Rage and reckoning in Michigan, that after a mass shooter leaves a killer's imprint on a large college campus. 3 are dead, 5 more wounded critically, after a gunman hunted students in 2 buildings at Michigan State. All of the casualties are students. The doctors trying to keep them alive.
A gunman hunted students. Isn't that just what schools are these days? A hunting ground for those who are mentally unwell. I don't blame those who are mentally unwell. I blame the fact that we live in a country where there's 120 guns per person. It should not be so easy to go hunting for human beings.
Exhausted and emotional.
Can't forget we had general surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, neurosurgeons.
Why is this guy crying? Because he just had to take a knife to a bunch of college kids. He knows what the odds are that they'll survive, and he also knows that none of their lives are going to be the same, those that do survive. We just asked this doctor to undertake that task because we are unwilling to stop playing Rambo in our backyard. That's what it comes down to. Let's watch this. It's uncomfortable. Let's experience that discomfort together because we deserve it.
Didn't get a lot of sleep last night, sorry. So many people that just came in.
Throughout the morning, some new details about the ongoing CSI. Calls of shots fired came in a little before 8:30 last night. Police swarmed within minutes, followed by a...
Those are children or young adults, extraordinarily young adults, running for their lives because we are unwilling to stop playing Rambo in the backyard.
flood of more
Children running for their lives.
panicked calls. Students spent hours locked down without knowing if their friends were dead or alive and without knowing...
There's someone clutching their friend or loved one desperately after having had to run for her life because we're unwilling to stop playing Rambo in our backyards. The nation of children.
if the shooter might soon walk through their door. Today, police putting a name to the haunting images of a suspect, 43-year-old Anthony McCrae. Motive, though, is murky. The shooter, police say, never attended,
I don't care what it is,
never taught, and never worked at the school. Let's get straight to CNN Shimon Prokopez for the latest details. Shimon, what are we learning?
Right, and it appears he is from that area, John, so that's a significant clue for authorities. You know, perhaps he may have been to the area before, because when you look at the surveillance photo that police released and then some of the information that they've been releasing, how he went from one campus or one building to the other building, there's some indication perhaps that he knew where he was going. The other significant information we're just learning from police there in Michigan State is that they have recovered a note they believe that was written by the shooter, which will hopefully for them shed some light perhaps on what happened here, perhaps describing some grievances that he may have had, some concerns that he may have had. But again, you know, the motive here remains a mystery. You know, police saying this morning they're not any closer to knowing why he targeted this school. But this note certainly is going to be important for authorities as they work through motive and try to learn more about this gunman. What they have been doing, John, though, is that they've been talking to family members and others who know this gunman, who know the shooter. And it sounds like from their information from the families that certainly this was a troubled individual, a family member describing him as sort of secluded, kind of to himself. There was some trouble after his mother died, according to his father. So it sounds like for authorities, at least, they're learning more about the shooter here. And at some point, maybe, and we may not know ultimately what the motive is here, but certainly, you know, we hope to hear more from authorities. Other thing very important here, obviously, for the victims, that community and what they're going through. All of the victims here, students of the school, the 3 dead and 5 that remain in the hospital. And you could just see the emotion from the doctors, you know, who see all sorts of trauma, see all sorts of issues to sort of give that kind of emotional statement and to talk about it in that way. It just tells you the effect this is having on the community.
All right, so how many times have we heard the story? Somebody who was unhappy decided to take it out on society, so they went hunting for people at a place where they knew they would be gathered. We got to get rid of these guns. Enough. Fortunately, there is certainly something you can do. First of all, let's start normalizing the words gun reform. I would very much like us to start getting that as part of the conversation. Start saying, we need gun reform. Let right-wingers worry about how much they're going to dilute that. They will certainly try, because they don't care about human life and they are bribed by the NRA. Okay. Let them deal with the awkwardness of having to pick and choose careful words. Right now, lefties are afraid to say, get rid of guns. Lefties are afraid to take any sort of a drastic stance. How dare we be the ones who are sheepish about this? Because there's dead kids on the ground. Right-wingers should be the ones who are bashful in front of the microphone, not lefties. We should be ashamed for having any hesitance at all, any fear that we might be misinterpreted, that people might think we're saying we're going too far. That's ridiculous. The only fear a politician should have is that it might be interpreted that they are not pushing hard enough to save kids. We need to normalize being aggressive about getting rid of guns. I don't know even of an organization in the United States of America that's talking about repealing the Second Amendment, so it doesn't seem realistic to me to make that a goal. But if somebody accidentally interprets something we're saying as repealing the Second Amendment, let them. The hell with them. We shouldn't be nervous about that being a misinterpretation of what we're saying. Again, the people that should be nervous are anybody that is resisting gun reform. It is so obvious that we need gun reform in this country. Start calling it gun reform. Gun reform would then refer to the entire umbrella of laws that restricts who can have a gun in this country. Not everybody should be allowed to have one. It is easier to get and own a gun designed only for killing people than it is to get and own a car designed for transporting people. That needs to be our standard. At a minimum, you should require in every state, a gun license. You should require a background check. You should require a hell of a lot more than is currently required in every state. Per 100 people, there's 120 guns. It means everybody in the United States owns 1.2 guns. Obviously, it's an average. Canada, gun ownership per 100 people, 34. Look on the right there. Gun homicides per 100,000 people as of 2019. In 2019, if you were killed in the United States, you were one of those 100,000 people, 4 of them were killed by a gun. What about in Canada? 0.5. That massive drop-off. 0.5. If you want to talk about countries that have actual responsible gun owners, got Australia and Norway. Gun ownership per 100 people in Australia, 30. It's just about the same in Norway. 0.18. That's how many people are killed in Australia per 100,000 people by a gun. 0.18, and in Norway, 0.07. If you feel that you want to take action, I recommend grouping up with other lefty organizations, with other organizations that are actually interested in helping human beings. Every town is the name of the organization that I think has the best plan going forward, because they are approaching this from multiple angles, and the overall goal is the same: reduce the number of guns in America. It's what we have to do. It is a massive task. The upside to that means that any solutions we implement will make things better, because the problem is so bad right now that doing anything would be better than where we currently stand. So, everytown.org. That is the people I recommend grouping up with, and simply work with them to demand stronger regulations for gun ownership. Contact your representatives. Follow Everytown's articles. Pick what is wrong in your state, match it up to what Everytown is recommending. For example, they have a list of which states have rejected legal immunity for the gun industry, as in they can't be sued for the deaths they cause. Decide how to approach it, but approach it. Take responsibility. Just or unjust, in your opinion, doesn't matter. Take responsibility, because somebody has to.